I've got 5 Nerf blasters that I think are really underrated, plus 3 picks from the community from a TikTok live I did. The first blaster I have on this list is the Doomlands Impact Zone Desolator. This is probably one of my very favorite Strife-like blasters. It takes everything great about the Strife, namely being able to attach a stock to it, and removes the silly barrel lug so you don't get the decreased performance. There is a transparent part right here that allows you to see the darts going into the flywheels, which not only helps for jamming purposes, but just looks really cool. The Impact Zone line was actually fairly interesting to me. It took this Doomlands concept, but applied it to frozen tundra, which the part of the country I live in right now feels pretty much like that. So all of the positives of the Strife with none of the downsides, the Desolator is one of my favorite underrated blasters. And if you're wondering, yes, this is a 3D printed battery cover. When I thrifted this, it didn't have one, so I found one on Etsy. I can't remember, but if I do find the seller, I will link it down in the description below. Coming from the early 2010s, we have stuff from the Rebelle line. Now, if we want to talk about it, the whole Rebelle line can be considered underrated just because of, well, a number of reasons, but out of the Rebelle line, one stands out from the crowd. It is the Powerbelle. It's a electronic spring power blaster, which we don't see enough of. The other big example, of course, being the Stampede. Everything from the ease of the front load of the blaster to just the styling of it. It's a little more aggressive than you normally would see in the Rebelle line, but it still has that really smooth curvature to the whole shell of the design, which makes it a really fun, compact, useful blaster that I feel never really got its day in the sun. As a side note, if any of the Rebelle shells come back, I'm just gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose it. I love the design of the Rebelle shells, and I just hope we see something like that again in the future. So here's my other pick for a underrated blaster. This is the Nerf Alien Menace Incisor. Alien Menace was another short-lived Nerf line, which I believe had a ton of potential. It's just a shame we only got a handful of blasters and some melee weapons that are incredibly hard to find now. This blaster, I believe, has a 20 or so dart capacity, and if you really want to get down to it, this seems like a blueprint of sorts for what became the Nerf Ultra 1. The thumbhole foregrip is pretty interesting, as well as the whole alien skeleton architecture of this blaster. It looks pretty gnarly, and I'd love to see more of what the Alien Menace line could have done. There's 2 variants, I believe, of some of the Alien Menace blasters. There is the purple version, and there's also a blue version, which I believe was exclusive to Toys R Us, or it was the other way around, something like that. One of the really clever things about this blaster is that there is a hidden dart jam mechanism here at the bottom. And if we look inside there, you could easily clear any sort of dart jams, flip it back down, and you're back in the battle. Again, there's a lot going on with this blaster. It looks really complicated, but it is very straightforward, easy to use, easy to load, and severely, severely underrated. If you're starting to notice a trend, it's that a lot of the blasters that I'm choosing come from either lines that never really got their due, were cut short, or they're sublines of a longer running, maybe still in production style Nerf blaster. This one is another example of that. This is the Evader from the Modulus Ghost Ops line. And well, if you know anything about the TikTok videos that I put out, you know anything that glows, anything that's see-through is automatically my favorite. So the Evader, of course, is going to skyrocket to the top of that list. This one is a fantastic blaster. The only thing I would change about this is the fact that the magwell is on the side. In a lot of cases, that's okay, but if you put an 18-round stick mag, you basically are putting wings on your blaster. And a lot of times that is just not good for it if you're going around corners and smacking into door frames. So that's the one change I'd make on this, but otherwise, everything about this I love, from the glow to the fact that you can see the whole entire blaster working and how it's all wired together without removing a single screw on the back. I almost dropped it. Oh, we'll try that again. There we go. The Nerf Roundhouse is a blaster of what feels like a different era. This was made at the beginning of 2020, before the specter of coronavirus dominated the news, dominated our entire lives, and put Nerf battles at the back burner as everybody cannot really gather. Here's what I like about this blaster. It is a pistol-style blaster. However, it can hold up to 15 rounds of rival ammo in this very clever rotating revolver mechanism. The reason I think this blaster is underrated is because of the fact that it got overshadowed by some other rival blasters, namely the Percy's, which released a little earlier in the holiday season of 2019, as well as the Takedown, which was a very popular tactical style shotgun that, while it didn't hold as many darts, looked pretty sleek and is admittedly cool. If you ever get a chance to play with a Roundhouse, you definitely owe it to yourself to see how this works, because it's actually really cool how they got so many rival balls in such a small, compact form. Those were the top 5 blasters that I felt were a little underrated. Now, I asked people in a TikTok live just the day before shooting this video which ones they felt were underrated, and I got some very interesting answers. You're gonna wanna stay tuned for this. The first one might be a little unbelievable, but the more I thought about it, the more it actually kind of made sense. So the people in the TikTok live thought the Nerf Jolt is an underrated blaster. I mean, it's a really interesting pick because it's a popular blaster, but I do see where they're coming from when they say it's underrated. A lot of people discount the Jolt as a blaster that is effective at any sort of battle. However, it's a great last chance blaster. You could put it in your hat. You can put it in a pocket. You can put it anywhere. You can put it in your sock. It doesn't matter. Like, this blaster can go with you anywhere, and it is decently powerful that you can pop off one last shot before you might get tagged. So for that reason, very clever of the community for coming up with that answer. Another blaster that came up in the chat that I felt was pretty interesting was the Strongarm. Now again, this is one that I really love. Whenever I talk about people getting into Nerf, I always recommend starting with something like a Strongarm or a Disruptor, just because of, well, A, you've got the cool drop cylinder, and B, that it's really easy to use. However, this is a popular blaster, again, underrated though, and this is where I feel people are coming from, is that this gets overshadowed a lot by something like, well, maybe a hammer shot, which a lot of people like. Because of that hammer prime action, because of that gunslinger feel of the hammer shot, the Strongarm just might not get its proper due. The Nerf Strongarm also kind of sits in a weird spot where you could actually use a Nerf Strife with a small 6-round mag that could effectively be something like this Strongarm right here. The reason I like this one, and the reason I tell a lot of people to start with one of these blasters if they've never played Nerf before, is because it's spring power. You don't need to worry about batteries. You typically don't need to worry about this jamming. You just need to worry about having fun with this. However, I can see where a lot of people feel this might be underrated. Here was the last suggestion of a blaster that I got in the TikTok live, was the Nerf Accustrike Quadrant. This I felt was a truly underrated pick, and I could see why somebody really likes this one. Not only did this come with Accustrike darts, which are really hard to find now, what's the deal with that? But it comes with a little tack rail on top here, so if you wanted to put a big silly scope or maybe even a dart holder up here, you certainly could. Now this is a much smaller form factor than something like, well, something like the Strongarm here, and you're only losing 2 darts. For that reason, I can definitely see why somebody would find this one completely underrated. The handle on this is really comfortable. The T-pole handle makes sense, and it's small, compact, but a lot of people don't know about it or don't like to use one of these. So for that reason, I can totally see why this blaster is underrated. And that's all of the underrated blasters I have for you. So hopefully you like some of my 5 picks, as well as the additional 3 picks that I got from a TikTok live. And if you have any other underrated blasters that I should know about, or maybe feature in another video where we kind of revisit this concept, leave them in the description below. And if you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so that you're notified as more videos come out each week. That's it. That's everything that I've got. So thank you so much, and we'll see you later.